Okay, so we've got 3 minutes left, and then we'll be handing back to the bosses. Just on behalf of everybody, a huge thank you. We will remember, I think, all of us, yesterday morning's audience for the rest of our lives. It was a moment of remarkable humility, but also clarity of purpose, which I think galvanized and enthused all of us. And for that, thank you very much for having given us that opportunity. Cardinal Turkson, Sister Alfred, Professor von Braun, thank you very much for leading us through this. We know how much work goes into setting these up with all your teams, but thank you very, very much indeed. To Ram and Marcelo, I speak for everybody when I say, when you get an email from either of you and then a phone call, your heart lifts. You appreciate there'll be an inspiration, a catalyst. You'll be challenged to think about something you've never thought about yourself. That'll last for the half an hour. Then you'll put the phone down or the Teams call and you realize you've signed up to something that you never thought you would. And I suspect everybody in this room will recognize that phone call. But keep doing it. Keep challenging us. It was great to have the two academies together. It sent a very strong signal. It was great to have the mayors and governors there. I think I took away two things. One is I think we heard the first campaign for the 2028 US election from a few. I felt it. And I suspect, and perhaps maybe more hopefully, also maybe had the starting gun for the 2058 election in the youth group. I suspect one of those at one day will become a prime minister or a president or something. Remarkable group of individuals. A few ideas to come back to you. On the cities, we heard lots of great words, and I praise all the mayors and the governors for what they've done. We could encourage them to go further and harmonize the data they're gathering across their cities so that politicians of the future will not selectively report what they want to report, these number of buses, that number of buses, whatever it is. There's a standard, harmonized set of data you cannot escape from, and then make sure that's passed into legal, because I'm a fan of the Chief Justice. It's passed into legal. You have the data, nobody can hide it, and you have the legal framework in which to make it sure. And I don't like, although I'm not an American, executive orders, because the next president, mayor, or governor, I think, can overturn those with another executive. Legal structures are critical for a reason, and we should push the legal structures. Do what we know now works, for sure. But please, let's not ignore the science of the future. We'll need science 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years for this issue. So if we don't invest in the young people, we don't invest in the science, we won't have the solutions that we need in 20, 30 years' time. This is not an either-sum game. Do what we know now and continue to invest in that basic science. Otherwise, we will run out. But also, make sure that that basic science is more equitably distributed than it has been in the past. And if we don't learn the lessons from COVID, we will not make progress. Ram asked a question, I think it was on day one, why, if the science is so compelling, is there such a lag? Science has to answer that question. And I think it is about, as Marianne was saying, about literacy, about communication, and critically about ownership of science. Science has to come out of its ivory towers and speak to the whole societies of which we are part of and which we cannot thrive if we're not part of. And that ownership by our communities is a critical component of scientists and science. And we need to do that better than we've done it in the past. Secondly, I would say we have to improve our scientific advice into government. You cannot complain about what politicians do as a scientist if you're not willing to engage in the political process. So scientists going into government is not a failure of their scientific career. It's an additional benefit to society and our communities. And then lastly, I want to go back to Mr. Helen, if I may. The comments on the first morning, we all felt it. The expectation, the excitement, the anticipation, a little bit of fear maybe in such an august group, but also hope. And that really, I think, set the tone. And it's the tone on which I think we want to close. But my final comments will be to say, we are a privileged group. To be in this place and to be with our agency and power is a privilege. And the warm words that we say in these meetings is not what should judge us. It's what we do when we leave. tomorrow, next month, next year. And we should be held accountable for that, because it is a privilege to fly to Rome, to come by train to Rome, however we got here. And we'll go back to where we came from. And it's not the warm words we said here that matter. It's whether we commit to delivering on those. Thank you.